Hello, buddy. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at a preview for patch 10.15, which is coming out next week. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Be sure to stop by the stream. Usually starts around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every night. Goes till about 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every night. Very friendly, chill community. I always try to talk as much as I can with the chat, hold conversation with people while also explaining what's going on in the game. If you enjoy this content, please be sure to check out the rest of the content as well on the channel. We do tier lists, individual champion guides, coaching, and tons of other content on the channel. And we also cover Total War Warhammer as well, if you're interested in that. So be sure to check all that out. What is it, Rory? What? Go ask Mommy. Mommy will give you some water, okay? Okay, so let's see if we can just go through these really quickly. So once again, this is not guaranteed to happen on 10.15, but a lot of this stuff is likely to happen because this is a tweet from Riot talking about some of the specific numbers. So just to kind of give you a heads up so you can start, thinking about what this might mean for the meta. And of course, I will release an official patch notes video once the patch gets released next Tuesday, once information about the patch gets released next Tuesday. Okay, so Summoner Spellbook getting nerfed from 240 seconds, so that is 4 minutes to 5 minutes. Cooldown reduction per spell is going from 20 seconds to 25 seconds. Pretty big nerf. I don't like that. I mean, there are virtually no champions that run this outside of Twisted Fate, and I guess they're already nerfing Twisted Fate down here a little bit, and that's a pretty significant nerf. Down there as well, so I don't really get it. I mean, there are a couple of supports that try this. I know I've seen like Rakan try this. I've tried it personally on Rakan. I didn't like it that much. You're really vulnerable without Guardian. So I don't know. I mean, TF is a dominant force right now in Pro. He's getting played a lot, but this feels like it's just nerf TF. Like, why nerf Spellbook? There are a couple of weird builds, or people might try it out, but I think it's a really cool summoner, right? I think that it gives you a lot of versatility, and it just requires sometimes some careful planning around how to use your teleport properly. I think it's a really cool rune that just doesn't really get used that much, and I just really don't think I think that it's already not very viable on most champs, so it just feels like nerf the champs where it's too OP. But anyways, that's what they're doing. Fine. Won't affect hardly anybody except for Twisted Fate. As far as I know, I might be forgetting somebody, but that's kind of the mainstream champ that uses it. Okay. Spell Thieves. Now, this is about what I predicted they were going to do with Spell Thieves, but they took it even further. So they did give it the mana regen early on, so from 25 to 50%, and then they took the mana regen up to 75% at Tier 2, which is pretty nice. And then the Shard of True Ice, they gave 5 extra AP. So this is to encourage people to take a more risky item rather than everybody going Relic Shield, because people have finally figured out, and I've been recommending this since like November of last year, that you just take Relic Shield on everybody, because it's just a lot more consistent. You're going to get your stacks, even if you get camped, even if, your laner's feeding, no matter what's happening down in bot lane, you're going to get your stacks when you have Relic Shield. It's guaranteed. And then also in the mid game, now, I know someone can say, what if they completely zone you off the wave and you can't get your stacks? It's like, well, if that's happening, you're not getting stacks with Spell Thieves either, okay? But, like, it's way easier to get your stacks with the vast majority of supports with Relic Shield. And HP is just a more valuable stat to begin with than AP in the early game for a lot of champs. But where Relic Shield really starts to shine is in that mid-game, where it's very difficult to go up and trade and get those Spell Thief stacks. It can just be really dangerous, especially on a lot of the enchanters, and so a lot of them will just go Relic Shield just so you can virtually guarantee that you're going to get your upgrade to the forward item, somewhere before 20 minutes, right? Whereas if it's a really tough situation, they have a lot of assassins, you're really far behind, you may not be able to get wards with Frostfang until like 25 minutes, if ever, in a lot of games, which exacerbates the problem because then you don't have as many wards. So I like this. They're making it a little bit riskier. It is going to be, still difficult to stack it up as a lot of enchanters, but especially in an extended laning phase where you have more time to stack Frostfang then. And the meta is slowing down a little bit in the bot lane. You're seeing more enchanters and more scaling ADCs. So this is good, especially for the mana-hungry supports, so like your Sonas, potentially Nami, Karma, Lulu, a lot of these kind of early game harass champs that can really leverage that extra 25%. And also, they're going to be getting Athene's Unholy Grail because the extra 25% mana regen converts over to 5 extra AP. So that's pretty good. And you get an extra 5 AP once you complete a Shard of True Eyes. So this is going to be very good for champs that can harass a lot and can stack it up pretty comfortably during the laning phase. So, okay. Aphelios, Crescendum, Turrets have a longer delay, much shorter range. That's actually a really big deal, 500 range. So now it's basically only going to work against a lot of melee champs. So that's pretty nice. And then Infernum Hurricane Bolts no longer damage enemies they pass through. I didn't even know that Infernum like interacted with Hurricane in that way. So that's pretty crazy. Crit Cone 8 to 6. Infernum Hurricane Cone from 4 to 3. Hurricane Cone Missiles to 5. Hurricane Cone length reduced to 100. I mean, that sounds pretty brutal. Or like for your second item power spike, right? When you get Hurricane, I forgot that Hurricane even interacts with all of his different guns in like crazy ways. So that's a big nerf. And his Crescendum as well, the range nerf. So I think he deserves more nerfs, especially for Pro. Even though his win rate's kind of low in solo queue, he's just way too strong in Pro, I think. So that's probably a good nerf. Might be a little over the top. I mean, I thought it was... The last few nerfs have been over the top, but he's still getting played. He's still doing well, so I guess that's fine. Ornn knocking down 3 armor early on. I feel like he's not that oppressive. Definitely not in solo queue. In Pro, it feels like maybe not. But this is probably fair because he can build armor. Like, he doesn't have to back, so he gets preferential back timing. So, you know, he can build a cloth armor really early on. You know, and that gives him a major edge to get basically 15 extra armor before someone else gets to back if he pushes him in and just walks into a bush and builds, you know, his armor, or just walks into the river and builds his armor item. So I guess, you know, that does give him a major edge at high elo levels of play because he just doesn't ever have to back unless he has to heal or something. So I guess that's fine. In certain matchups, obviously that's going to hurt him more than others, but he'll probably still be good at what he does. Okay, Lee Sin, W's going. Okay, so he can't jump around as much. I really don't like that nerf because that's part of the fun of Lee. I'm not an expert Lee player, so I don't know exactly like what the break points on this are going to be or if this is going to matter. It feels like you only W once in most fights anyways. I guess you probably max W. I don't know if you max W or your E second. You're obviously maxing Q first. I don't know. If it's a W max last, I don't think, because it's static cooldown at all levels, I believe. I mean, let me look and see. I feel like it's just, I don't know. Is he that oppressive? Is he that much of a problem? I mean, I guess he does have a high win rate in Pro right now, but I don't know. I think it's cool if Lee Sin's in the meta. I think a lot of people would rather see something like Lee Sin than, you know, Sejuani every game. Not there's anything wrong with Sejuani, but yeah, I mean, this is 14 seconds. I'm not really sure. Like, this gives you a lot more damage. So I feel like you probably max tip a second, but I don't know. Whatever. I mean, you're probably only doing it once for a lot of fights anyway, so maybe there are certain situations where you W in, and if you have enough CDR, you might be able to W back out. I don't know. Fine. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because you're only doing it once in most fights. Like, Lee Sin's not looking for really, really long fights, right? He's looking for skirmishes and, you know, late game. If it comes to that, he's looking for the big kick, right? To pick somebody off and just clean up fights. So I think that's fine. Tank Fiddlesticks. Okay, W minion healing is going from 25% down to 15%. It's probably fine. I mean, it's kind of a toxic playstyle. I don't think it's that great in solo queue. It's okay. But it's just really annoying. Like, anything that can heal a ton off of minions always ends up getting nerfed because it's like non-interactive. Like, there's nothing. It's difficult for the enemy to stop you from doing that. You know, if you heal off of them, then it's like risky. You usually have to put yourself, you know, within their sphere of influence, and they can do stuff to make you pay for that. when you can just heal off of minions for a ton, especially an AoE heal like that, then that leads to non-interactive lanes. That's the same thing as like Akali used to be able to, just queue the minion wave and heal off of that before they made it champions and they got rid of the heal eventually. Same thing with Aatrox, used to be able to heal off of minions. Same thing with Kai'Sa with Death's Dance. When she first got released, she just queue and heal to full every time on minions. Just non-interactive. It's not fun. It's difficult to balance around, so I think that's fine. They're gonna change Nunu. I'm really surprised they didn't nerf him this patch, but like make it to where like lane minions he only gets 50% healing or something like that, or like Snowball only does 50% damage to minions, because like mid lane Nunu is really toxic right now in solo queue. Although I think like jungle Nunu is really good, but definitely more acceptable than mid lane Nunu. Okay, Twisted Fate, his gold card is going from 6 seconds at all ranks to 8 to 6 seconds. That's actually really massive on him. That's a very big window. If he ever uses a card on the wave, now you have 8 seconds to mess with him where he's going to be completely defenseless. And usually people max Q first also. So that's going to be a long time. So I guess that's what, down 0.5 seconds per point that you put into it. And he doesn't get a lot of CDR either early on. Usually he goes for Rod of the Ages. So yeah, I think that's a pretty significant nerf on Twisted Fate, and that's a big deal too. I mean, that gold card in fights is huge. The stun is massive in fights. That's definitely gonna nerf his utility in fights quite a bit, and it's gonna leave huge windows to punish him. Like I said in the laning phase, if he ever uses a red card to push the wave, or a blue card for some extra mana, he's gonna be really vulnerable. Okay. So that's probably good. He is pretty dominant in pro. This is a double nerf on him though, because you're getting that nerf and you're getting the Summoner Spellbook nerf. So that's 2 pretty big nerfs on him. Okay, Thresh. WCD 22 to 12 seconds going to 22 to 14 seconds. Okay. So that's like late game. Because you max Q first, and then usually this day and age you max W second rather than Flay. So it's less damage if you do that, but it's more utility. I guess that's fine. Once again, it's kind of like what I was talking about with Lee. I really don't think this is going to matter in most fights, except for like really, really long team fights. Just because you're only going to use the Lantern once in a lot of fights. I mean, I know if you get 40% CDR, like that is going to matter. It's going to take it from, whatever, 6 and some change to 7 and some change, like, so it's going to be like 1 second difference as far as the W goes. So it's like, yeah, I guess if the fight goes for exactly 7 seconds or something, when you have 40% CDR and that's the difference between life and death, can you throw out that last shield, your W, to help somebody reposition? Maybe it matters. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Okay, but that's fine. I mean, he still has his engage, still has all of his base stats. He, his Flay still available fairly often. It didn't touch his Q cooldown, which is the bigger one, because he can actually cast that a lot in fights. Because 40% CDR, but every time he lands a hook, it's a 3-second reduction on it. So that's pretty big. So that's fine, I guess. I don't really think he needed to be nerfed. But once again, like I think it's good for the game when Thresh and Lee Sin are good champions in the meta, because they're 2 of the best designed champions, 2 of the most exciting to watch, exciting to play, and reasonably balanced. I don't think either one of them is overpowered. It takes a lot of skill to play them correctly, but there's always outplay potential for the enemy, right? It's not like, certain champions, once they reach a certain threshold, you just can't deal with them. Right, it's like level 16 Kassadin, 16 Kale, that type of stuff. There's always a chance with those champs. So I just think that it's really nice where they have this snowball potential if you're really good, but the enemy can always kind of catch back up if they outplay you later. So, anyways, I don't like them getting nerfed at all, because I think they're just good for the meta. They're good for the game, but if they're gonna nerf them, I guess those 2 are fine. Okay. Skarner, Q gets more total attack damage, but gets a smaller ratio. I don't know why it's percentage here in a decimal here, but whatever. It's going from 33% to 15%, plus 1 to 3% of target's max health. So if you have 100 AD, then you're losing about 18 damage. If they have 1,000 health, then you're gaining about 20 halfway through. This is good overall because like you don't want to be getting AD, as Skarner most of the time. Like maybe Trinity, will give you some AD, but after that you're really not getting a lot of AD. So I think moving it over to something that is max HP is probably a good move. Obviously better against tanks, but that allows you to build more tanky without sacrificing a lot of damage. Q empowered bonus damage. Target's health. Okay, same deal. So making it better against tanks, making it better against jungle monsters. Things like dragon, things like blue, red. Empowered Q buff duration is 5 seconds. Okay, mana cost. Okay, E-missile. No, okay, so when it goes through people, it doesn't slow down. Okay, so that's going to make it a lot easier to hit multiple targets in team fights for the potential stun. That's nice. Okay, I don't think this is enough to fully bring him back into the meta. There's just a lot of counterplay to him out there. But, I mean, they did buff Predator, which I think would be really good on him. He's okay. I think he's kind of outdated with his kit. There's just other champs that feel like they do kind of what he does better, but he can be pretty strong. Especially now that you could do something like, you don't even necessarily have to go Trinity. You could go something like Iceborne Gauntlet if you want to stick to people a little bit more but still get some of that sheen damage. Maybe go Iceborne Gauntlet. I'm not really sure. So I don't think this is enough to bring him back, but it definitely does help out a little bit, especially with the Predator changes. If people want to go for like a Predator Ingenious Hunter build on him, maybe that could be okay. Okay, Swain, movement speed going down to 325. That's a massive nerf. Swain really, really wants movement speed, as do most champions. The passive cooldowns going from 12 seconds to 6 seconds to 10 seconds, so that's a lot worse late game. But it does scale with CDR, so if you get a lot of CDR, it's good. So if you're not getting like a Rod of the Ages, Leandries, Rylai's type of build, it could be good. I mean, what's he gonna get that gives CDR? I mean, I guess you could get Ludens. Seems kind of bad on him, especially for support Swain. You would pretty much never get Ludens. As support Swain, I think most of the time you're just going to want to go like the Leandries, Rylai's. So the fact that you get CDR, it doesn't matter. You're probably going Sork Boots or Boots of Swiftness. So it seems like a nerf to me. I mean, to make up for that in the late game, you'd have to have 40% CDR to take it from 10 to 6. So I don't know. That seems bad. Passive, mana restore remove. That's a huge nerf. I don't remember how much he gets off the mana restore for solo lane, but it's like whenever you kill stuff, I think with your Q, you gain extra mana, something like that. Okay, so that's really bad for your mana cost. So that's going to be a lot harder to go for the Leandries Rylai's build with that, probably. Q cooldown, okay, early levels it's worse, later levels it's better by 1 second. Alright, that's probably a wash. Q bolt angle is 8 degrees, so it's a much narrower cone. Okay, that feels bad. New Q bolts, they pass through champions, not minions, not monsters, champions. Okay, so in a team fight where there aren't any minions or like any summon like critters running around, no voidlings, no plants. You can potentially hit multiple targets, but it's going to be harder to do that because it's a narrower cone. I don't... Okay. I guess in some situations, if they're running like 3 or 4 melee comp and you somehow get in the middle of all of them, you can like flash Q and hit like 3 or 4 of them. Okay. Oriana Ball like brings them all together or something. You hit them all with your Q. I mean, it could be good in the right situation. W going to 55 to 7,500 mana. I heard some people complaining. It's like, oh my god, it's OP. It's really long range. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I guess it's still on a really long cooldown. I think it's like a 25-second cooldown or something. And I'm almost positive it's the last thing that you max. At least as support Swain, and they get warning. It's like a 2-second warning. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could snipe people with it. Okay, most people are going to outplay it, but maybe, if someone gets like hard CC'd and you're like on the other side of the map, I guess like if the jungler is ganking mid in your bot lane with Swain and you like rotate up to like the dragon pit, you could probably throw it up to mid lane from around the dragon pit. If they're just like chain CC'd, and maybe that contributes to the kill. It seems very situational. Maybe you can like snipe out a jungle camp or something if you have it warded from your lane. Steal some raptors or something. I don't know. I mean, there's stuff to it that you can do, but this feels like it's okay. It's not amazing. But the damage is down on it. Okay, so they're encouraging you to snipe, but then the damage is dropped by 60 at max level. What? Like, what are they going for here? Like, why is there so many changes? That's one thing that really annoys me sometimes when they throw like 10 changes on a champion in a patch, but it just doesn't have a clear vision to it. It doesn't have a clear narrative. Like, how is this clarifying what Swain is supposed to do that's unique and like a reason to play him over other champions right now? You know, like, if I were to think about thematically, what could Swain do? Okay, so he's like a melee champ that's, you know, has a lot of spell vamp to it, right? So he's kind of like a Vladimir with more CC. Like, that's what I envision him being, right? It's just like lower burst, but higher sustained tank, sustained damage, you know, type of support with some good CC. Or even just like if he's a mid laner, you know, something like that. So I don't know. That's where I think he would fit in best. But like, how does this help that? It's harder for you to get in there with the movement speed. It's harder to stick to people, so your crows are hitting people and things like that. You can be kited a lot easier. You're not healing as much. Your passive's on a shorter cooldown. The Q stuff, it's just weird. Like, I don't know. The mana cost is lower on the W. Okay. The E cooldown is 10 seconds at all ranks. Okay. I mean, that's good. Early on, that you're going to be able to try to grab people more. And the E mana cost is a lot lower. So I guess that does help out support Swain's sums. It's 50 mana at all ranks. Do they really want you to max E, I guess? I mean, that's very cheap. Like, you could spam that all day. It doesn't lower the cooldown on it, but it's basically super cheap mana. I mean, maybe. Okay, so maybe they just want to clarify, all right, you're fishing for E's, you're going for those hooks. You don't get the mana regen. I don't know. I mean, maybe. So it seems really bad for mid lane or top lane, but maybe it's okay for support because you can fish for E's a lot. You probably still max Q, and then maybe not. Maybe you do actually. I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to be played a lot. Okay, Shin. It's actually a really big buff on Shin. 20 extra shield, especially in the early levels. Because I think in some matchups, if Shin lands that taunt, he can all in level 2. Like, taunt Q can do quite a lot of damage. And now it's 20 extra damage on it. That's a big shield. Shin's not even that bad in the meta right now. I think he's a decent split pusher. Into certain matchups. And, of course, he has his global pressure, which is very nice. So, good. Okay, cool. I think Shin's an interesting champ. Creates some interesting comps in pro. So I like Shin. I'm down with that. WAP ratio. Okay. His W is bad. That's where you have to like auto attack somebody to get the extra damage. R AP ratio 80%. Okay, the R AP ratio is good. Okay. Gragas is an interesting champ. Lots of engaged potential, outplay potential. Can potentially be played in like, I guess, comfortably 2 different roles right now. Jungle, maybe support. I guess you could play him mid. He's a cool champ. He has some interesting stuff going on. He's got some uniqueness, like kind of the R skill shot is cool that people can outplay it a lot of times, but it can, if played absolutely perfectly, it can knock people back in your team. But if you misplay it or if they outplay it, it can knock them to safety. So you can set up some pretty nasty wombo combos with that as well. So I think it's cool. I like Gragas in the meta. Irelia, passive attack speed per stack. Okay, so at later levels she's stronger. It's fine. I think Irelia being decent in the meta but not OP is good. I think she does have a lot of outplay potential. She can be kind of interesting to watch. Caitlyn base AD going up by 3 and attack movement speed going up by 5. Okay, let's go give her a bit more mobility, a bit more damage early on. She does have very good AD ratios, so that's going to actually add quite a bit to her rotation, like a proper rotation where they step on a trap. You auto attack, EQ as you're going backwards, and auto attack again for a double headshot. I think that could be pretty good. Now, do I think she's automatically going to be really good in the meta? Probably not, but a lot of it is just people don't really utilize her kit that well. They don't auto attack as much as they should in the lane. They don't use their traps properly. And when people, okay, mommy's got the big Poe in the other room. You go get it from mommy?
No.
Mommy's got it. Okay, well you gotta wait on daddy just a minute though. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll do it in just a second.
Do it.
She's just too hard for a lot of people to play. It just requires a really, really aggressive play style and very good usage of traps. It's not enough if they step on a trap just to headshot them. You got to at least Q and headshot them. And if you're a real baller, you're going to do that combo that I talked about. And a lot of people just don't. They just sit there, especially like gold and lower, platinum and lower, even low diamond a lot of times. They'll just sit there and farm off, and they just don't land enough auto attacks. They don't apply enough pressure. I think Ashe is just a better version of this. Ashe still has a long range. Ashe has really good poke with her W, great utility, good engage, lots of CC. Doesn't have as much early game pressure as Caitlyn does, but you really have to push hard, pressure towers. What is it, Rory? But anyway, so maybe in Pro, the problem is Ashe is really meta right now, and Ashe is widely considered a hard counter to Caitlyn because it's hard for Caitlyn to auto attack her because they both have a similar range, and then Caitlyn doesn't have a great. Caitlyn has a hard time dodging Ashe's arrow as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know where it is?
Let's go look. So, anyways, I think Caitlyn can be an interesting champ, but it's just in this meta right now, I feel like maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Karma is really good, and Karma is historically very good with Caitlyn. Lots of these kind of push poke champs are very good with Caitlyn, so maybe she comes back, but I feel like it definitely could be a big problem. Okay, Yuumi, passive mana restore. Okay, 8% of max mana with a lower cooldown. Okay. So they really want you to hop off of Yuumi to auto attack more to keep up with your mana costs because it's 15% of your max mana, I believe, for the E now. I mean, this is just a super clunky way of saying Yuumi should not be able to permanently attach to people. So, I've said this so many times on the stream, why not just make her attachment temporary? Lulu puts picks on somebody for, I think it's 5 seconds. Yuumi attaches to somebody for 3 to 5 seconds. That's it. It's that simple. W, attach to somebody, empowers your Q where you can aim it on people, does extra damage, empowers your heal, allows you to heal people. Maybe it heals both you and the caster or whatever and gives them all their stuff. And then when you fall off, just buff the other stuff. Give her maybe a little bit of extra movement speed. Lower all of her mana costs. And just, allow her, some agency. Maybe make her Q missile speed faster when she's unattached. Maybe make her E give extra movement speed when she's unattached. Just give her a bit more survivability, a bit more, capability to operate on her own. She should still be fairly weak when she's on her own, but not as weak as she is now. But then when she attaches, it's really powerful for a very concentrated amount of time, right? 3 to 5 seconds, and then she can't attach again for a while. So I think that is a much more interesting way to play her rather than someone who can permanently attach that is sort of hindered on mana if there's not a lot of kills and assists going down, and just trying to play this little game with the mana cost. But anyways, it's a buff to her. Fine. I still think she's very good on good Yuumi players. I think she'll be good in Pro. I think she's still good right now, so these buffs will be great. But in solo queue, for a lot of people, they're still gonna get baited into bad fights, and they're still gonna die too much. So I don't think it's gonna change that much as far as win rate. Maybe she gets an extra couple of % here, but she'll still be below 50. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day.